Welcome to the RV Podcast. This is episode number 417.
And this week, a post-hurricane update about Florida camping. What's it going to be like this winter? Hi, everybody. This podcast episode being released on October 12th, 2022. I'm Mike Wendland, and this is my lifelong traveling companion and my bride, Jennifer.
Hello, Michael.
What a week this is going to be.
It's going to be an extremely busy week.
A big week for us. And excuse us if we're just a little secretive because we don't want to jinx anything. But this is the week that we are expected to close on our long sought after Michigan property. Now, I have to tell you, we have had a lot of challenges trying to find some property. We bought 5 acres in Tennessee that we've turned into like a little private RV resort. And we wanted to have something in Michigan as well. I got to say, we can't find a development like the Woodlands where we have our property, which we call Loblolly Ridge, where we have the 5 acres there in Tennessee. That's a big development, 5,000 plus acres, divided up into big multi-acre parcels, many RVers there. They don't have that in most other states, including Michigan. So it's sold a little differently up here.
It is, and we're very happy that we should be closing on getting 10 acres.
10 acres. Now, in searching for property in Michigan, we looked literally from the Upper Peninsula up here, the Lower Peninsula, and it's sold mostly in individual parcels. So we checked out some starting back last winter with snow on the ground, and we found what we wanted. And we don't want to give too many details on the property away just yet until it closes, okay? But we can tell you it's 10 acres in size.
And for us, it's going to be closer to Elkhart, Indiana, which is going to be great.
Because we are there all the time.
We want to do
capital of the world.
Check on in Elkhart.
Yep. It has a small little lake on it. No, we called it a pond, but it's actually, I guess, big enough that it actually has a name to it. And we will own...
Probably about a third of it or half of it.
Oh, I think about half of it, half the lake. There's really nobody else on the lake. There's a lot of lily pads that we have to, the frost we just had in Michigan will kind of kill those off, but we got to figure a way to control those. But still, it's got a little lake. Bo will like that.
Be great for kayaking.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And we have in Tennessee, we hope to have 2, maybe 3, but 2 for sure sites where we can invite friends and family, and we can keep our fifth wheel, our Arcadia fifth wheel, and even our motorhome there if we want. It's kind of a base camp if we want. Southwestern Michigan is where it's located.
Because it's important to us to have our vehicles close by.
Yep. And it's very different than what we have in Tennessee. For one thing, maybe not at first, but as soon as we can, we're going to be living on it full time. Not in the RV, but in a house on that 10 acres. That's going to take some time, though. And again, we'll show you some of the property in the place, and we'll share more of it. One of the mistakes we made with Loblolly Ridge is showing everybody our address. A lot of you warned us when we did it. Take your address off. Oh, the video had already been cut because, and I don't, but people keep coming to look at it, and taking pictures of it. I have some security cameras up, and we think that's probably not a good idea that we put our address out there for everybody. We did it in Tennessee, but we're not going to do that in Michigan. It's a little different there. But again, we'll share, and we're pretty excited about this, and we'll share and have lots more details for it after we close on it. It's supposed to happen this week, but it's a lot more complicated always than one would think to close on property, and we hope to have this taken care of soon. But it's different than Tennessee, nothing like that at all. But one thing is it's 10 acres that we're pretty excited about. But sort of related, but only indirectly, because in anticipation of that future move, we're trying to start to downsize from our sticks and bricks house, and to do that, we thought we'd sell some household items and things that maybe we won't be needing when we move to this new property. And we've been advertising some things on Facebook Marketplace. And what we encountered was a pretty sophisticated scam, apparently rampant these days on Facebook Marketplace. And since I know there's always people out there who are going to go full-time or in the process of selling stuff, I thought we ought to just at least warn you about what we experienced. It happened on a site on the Facebook Marketplace, and it involved the Zelle. Zelle is that peer-to-peer money exchanging service. Kind of works a little bit like PayPal and other services like that. But that's Bo. Bo's outside looking at us as we're recording this.
He won't stop till I let him in.
Well, we'll let him in when we do the commercial break.
Okay, when we do the commercial.
If I could down the camera and show you him, he's kind of peeking in.
He is. He's looking in the window like, excuse me.
He says, those are my people that want to see me.
Oh.
But this scam, you want to explain a little bit about it, how it all came about? And somebody was trying to buy some property.
Somebody was trying to buy a piece of furniture that we have, and they suggested this form of paying us.
They said, to guarantee it, we'll send you payment on Zelle. And I said, well, I don't have Zelle. I don't use Zelle. I said, well, you can get an account, and then I'll pay you, and then you know it's paid, and you won't sell it to other people. Because other people were asking.
Yeah, that's something else we discovered, that people say they're going to come, and they don't come. And there's a lot of confusion with doing this. And then other people are wonderful.
Yeah, they're. So we said, okay. So we got an account, and they said, what's your email address? There's the secret. So I sent them the email address I'm using for Zelle. And immediately I got this email back, purportedly from Zelle, saying, hey, we got the money they sent, but you are brand new, and we need to upgrade your account, and you need to either have them or you send us $500 more, and then we will, then you can refund that, and that just proves it's a legitimate transaction. It seemed a little weird to us.
Yeah, not just a little, absolutely insane.
So we're saying, well, this doesn't make sense, you know. And then, before I could say, well, let's pay by something else, or bring us cash, which is really the only way to sell on Facebook, they said, well, I just sent that $500 in. And I went, why would you send $500 in? And so I had this official looking document from Zelle, and it had a service number, call for service. So Jennifer called, and you were told to leave a message.
Well, there was an answering machine.
And then immediately the phone rang, and it was some guy with a very thick foreign accent. And so we're getting very suspicious at this time. And he said, well, here, you send the money to this address. I don't know who that address was. And he says, and that didn't work. You know, when I tried to enter it, that address didn't work. I tried another one, that didn't work. And then he gave me another one, and that would have worked. I said, well, who are these people? And the guy just never had a thing.
Questions.
And then he says, are you trying to cheat your buyer out of that $500 they deposited? And then I knew right away what we're on. And so we called him for what it was, and the guy hung up. But it was very sophisticated. And here's how you know. Because what they did is, when she had my address, she immediately, or the person purporting to be a she, immediately sent us that email. And that email, when you look at the address, it was something like ZellePayments@gmail.com. Why would Zelle have a Gmail account? It's a big company. It's a banking financial thing. So that's really your secret. Zelle doesn't use Gmail for their ads. And it was a mess. I tried to report them to the bank. Of course, the bank was closed, and it's going to be closed the following Monday because it was Columbus Day. And I tried to report it to Zelle, and all you get is phone tag with Zelle. So this whole story is to tell you that, as I researched that, there are scams like that all over Facebook Marketplace these days. And also, you know, on Craigslist and eBay and other things. So if you sell stuff, cash only, meet them in a public, well-lit place where there's a lot of traffic. Don't invite them to your house. for us, I think rather than trying to sell that furniture, we're just going to donate it to charity. But what a mess, huh?
Oh, it was a real learning experience, and I was all inspired by everybody saying, oh, Facebook Market, everybody sells on it all the time. Maybe it depends on what area of the country you live in. I don't know.
Maybe.
What kind of big city?
Yeah, but all right, so that's our warning to you on that. Hey, a couple of quick RV news of the week stories, then we'll get into our discussion about Florida and what you can expect in the wake of the hurricane for camping. But two stories that we think we need to talk about this week.
Oh, this one, you're all going to be familiar with this one, the rising price of gasoline. I mean, you were shocked. I know I was when I went and filled up my little itty bitty car, and it was over $60 to fill it up. It used to be like 20 to fill that thing up. So a significant gas price hike this week. And unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be end to this pain for a long time. And so why is this happening? There was a fire at the refinery in Toledo, Ohio, and it's impacting prices in the upper Midwest, and production is now affected, and it's probably going to be affected until December. And on the West Coast, refineries in California deal with outages and reduced capacity there. And of course, there's the OPEC announcement. It is cutting the supplies, and gasoline demand is up, and as a result, this is all bad news.
Yeah.
So the national average for a gallon of gas was $3.90 on Saturday, but in Michigan, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Idaho, and Arizona, the average price for a gallon of gas is $4.36 to $6.35.
And for diesel, those of you with diesel pushers or diesel, we have like a diesel Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. You're paying $6 or $7 a gallon, and folks, it's going to continue.
It's just going to go
rise up. Everybody's saying, "Oh, it's going to go even worse after the midterms elections," and I think it will be because we've now exhausted our national reserves pretty much. They were filled before all this started, and now they're going to be empty. We're doing no refining of our own. Our refining has dropped completely off the grid. There's very little with these outages, and of course we're not doing any exploration or any pipelines are all shut down now. It's going to be a mess. I just have to tell you that. I can't sugarcoat it. That's one of the reasons I think so many people, like we've been doing, and many other RV YouTubers like us, buying their own property because we still want to live this lifestyle. But I've got all these emails that have come in this week. I was going to read them all for me, but they're all the same story. They were all complaining about how expensive gas is and how expensive campgrounds are. It's over $50 for most campgrounds now. Some state parks you can still get by for 35 or so, but it's insane. So no good news there.
And it's up for some good reasons, like the price of electricity. And
everything's up.
Everything is up. You know that.
So that's it. So one other story that I wanted to talk about, because the other thing we get hearing from people is, wait till electric vehicles become RVs. Well, that may happen, but I don't know if you saw the story. It was this week. It's one of a series of stories. This was about a YouTuber named Tyler Hoover. He's got a pretty cool YouTube channel called Hoovy's Garage Channel, and he's a big car nut. But he's got a Ford Lightning F-150, the Lightning, and he decided he would see what it was like towing with that. So he took an empty trailer, and he was on his way to some place that was only about 32 miles away from him to pick up, I think he was going to get an antique car and bring it back on that trailer. So he charged the Lightning up. He supposedly had 200-mile range, right? And as soon as he started towing this empty trailer, the charge dramatically dropped. Here's what he said. He said, quote, "The truck towing 3,500 pounds can't even go 100 miles. That is," I'm quoting Tyler, "ridiculously stupid. The truck can't do normal truck things." Now, he didn't do an exactly scientific, but you saw what he did. I'll put a link in our show notes on the RVLifestyle.com blog for this. But it's one of a number of tests like that have happened. Other towing tests with EV trucks similar results. Car and Driver did one. They hitched a 6,100-pound RV camper to each of 3 electric pickups on the market. They did the Lightning, the Ford F-150 Lightning. They did the GMC Hummer EV and the Rivian R1T. And Car and Driver said that
He's really mad.
yeah, he is at 70 miles an hour. We'll go get him in a second. At 70 miles an hour, in 85-degree conditions, the maximum range dropped to 100 miles for the Ford, 140 on the Hummer, 110 on the Rivian. So it isn't going to happen for a while. This is just this whole EV stuff for RVs. We're talking, I think, 5 years out minimum before we see some improvements on that. We'll keep you informed as we see more stories come through. All right, we're going to take a break because we got to go bring Bo in.
We got to let Bo come in.
He's going to bark the whole
very
time.
angry.
And when we come back, a post-hurricane update on what the camping situation will be like this year, this winter for you snowbirds in Florida. Stay with us.
When we're on a road trip, we always seem to find a way to stop at a Camping World center. There are over 225 Camping World locations across the country, and there's always one close by when we need parts and accessories for our RV or just want to shop. In fact, we have so much fun with Camping World, and as we talk about it as one of our sponsors, they have agreed to offer a 10% discount if you use the coupon code RVLifestyle10 when you buy $99 or more in merchandise. You'll find everything you want, from outdoor furniture and appliances, the ones you see us use in our videos and that we talk about here in the podcast. RV extras that include everything from camping chairs to fire pits, electrical accessories, must-have gadgets. Check them all out. And again, don't forget, use the coupon code RVLifestyle10 when you visit campingworld.com.
Tired of overcrowded campgrounds and competing for reservations, paying high fees for sites? Well, ownership is an emerging trend in RVing that might be right for you. It was for Jen and me. We bought some land just west of Nashville, Tennessee, in an incredible collection of mountaintop RV properties called the Woodlands at Buffalo River. These are 5 to 62-acre properties that allow RVs year-round starting at $79,900, and we loved it. The scenery is breathtaking, and you can own it outright. It's not a timeshare. It's your property, your way. You can landscape, garden, bring your pets, build what you want to. There's high-speed internet, and it's so private. It's a great place to make your home base. No more calling around for reservations, ready whenever you want. And they're selling these properties by appointment, 5 to 62 acres, $79,900. Financing, big discounts available on multi-lot packages. For information, visit myrvland.com. myrvland.com.
Welcome back, everybody. We brought Bo in. He's running
Bo
around
thinks
someplace.
he's Wonder Dog. He just jumped off a 4-foot ledge.
Yeah.
I wish he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
He's not as young as he used to be.
No.
He's got to rein it in a little bit.
Yep. That's,
Oh, dear.
That's Bo. All right. Cleanup is still underway, obviously, in Florida in light of the devastation wrought by Hurricane Ian to particularly southwest Florida. But while a number of parks have been just wiped out and totally taken out, it's very interesting what the subject of our interview this week. We talked to the head of the Florida Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds, and he has an unusual message that you might be surprised to hear. He basically says,
Come on down.
please come, he says. Parks from Naples to Tampa were almost all impacted, particularly those near the coast, by the storm. But most of the state and most of the campgrounds are open for business. Earlier this week, the campground estimate was that 20 of its 400 member parks were pretty much closed, shut down, but the number is being continually updated, and that's always out there. So a couple of them that we know are not going to be open for a while. Bo is back in with us here.
He forgives us, maybe.
Yeah. Everybody's going to want to see Bo, so
Bo.
let's see if we can bring Bo
Come on
in.
over here. Come here.
Well, let's see. Where's
Come here,
Bo?
sweetie.
Does he show up over this
Yeah.
way?
I don't think
No,
so.
I don't think
no,
he
you're
does.
not showing up.
All right,
Big
Bo.
guy.
He's down there. A couple of parks particularly, and they're both very popular, the Red Coconut RV Park and the San Carlos RV Park and Islands in Fort Myers Beach.
Fort Myers Beach.
They were completely destroyed. However, not far from there, the North Trail RV and RV Country, also in Fort Myers, did not experience major damage. Now, a lot of the RVs that were at all of those parks were very severely damaged, as you'll hear in our interview. But our guest is Bobby Cornwell. He is the president and the CEO of the Florida RV Parks and Campground Association. And I know snowbird season really starts in right after
I mean, this is so
Halloween.
This is a timely podcast because you need to have this information so that you can make your plans.
But listen to what he says. The overall message. Come on down. We're joining us right now from Florida is Bobby Cornwell. He is the president and the CEO of the Florida RV Parks and Campground Association. And Bobby, I know this has been a very traumatic and trying couple of weeks now since that devastating hurricane. Can you give us an update? How many of your parks have been shut down, destroyed? And let's see if we can actually get some real numbers. I know that probably not all of it is tabulated yet, but what you can give us in terms of the current situation.
Sure. And you're right. It's hard to get very accurate figures. The information, understandably, is slow coming. We've been reaching out to our members, ever since the storm hit. But without power, phone lines, and obviously they have more important things on their hands right now as far as getting their parks and their staff and their campers safe. So, but we have been able to tabulate some information. Right now, we have 23 parks that are closed in the Lee, Collier, and Charlotte County areas. That's Fort Myers, Naples area, and the surrounding Fort Myers beaches, Estero Bay and Sanibel. Those were the hardest hit areas. So, like I said, we're showing 23 that are closed. However, the majority of those we expect and have heard from many of the park owners and operators that they will be back open and running real soon. Fort Myers specifically, which is one of the hardest hit areas, the beaches are bad. So I don't want to undermine that. It's absolutely horrible and devastating. And we probably have anywhere from 5 to 10 parks there that are severely damaged, pretty much wiped away. So you're talking about years of recovery there. But just a little farther inland, 20 miles, make a huge difference. A lot of the Fort Myers parks are open and they have power, and the power is being restored relatively quickly considering everything. So that's the good news. In Fort Myers, in that area that we're talking about, that Southwest Florida area there that was most heavily impacted, happens to be the most populated area of the state as far as RV parks and campgrounds go. There's probably 70 parks just in that 3-county area. What's, again, I think is probably the most dense area, not only in the state, but possibly the nation. So a lot were devastated, but we have a lot of parks there, which is the good thing. And like I said, the majority of those, if they're not open now, they will be open soon.
I'm sure a lot of this information is probably still anecdotal, but I know many people were able to pull their RVers out when they had the evacuation warning, but there were still a lot of parks that had RVs in them. Have you any reports about how damaged those RVs were, those RVs in those parks were, or is it still being gathered?
Yeah, you're right. There were, I think, in these circumstances, a lot of RVs that were left. The evacuation, the way this storm, if everybody remembers, this storm was originally projected to go up north towards the Panhandle, Tallahassee, Panama City area. And then within the next 48 hours, it went from there all the way into Fort Myers. So there wasn't a whole lot of time warning. People in Fort Myers thought they were safe 24 hours before the storm hit. So there wasn't a whole lot of evacuations that were done, way in advance. So, I estimate that there was a good amount of RVs. I don't have any numbers. I wish I did. But, fortunately, I think a lot got out, but then there were some that were probably there, especially from RVers and campers who maybe stored their RV on site and they come down for the winter, November through April. I have the feeling there were, a lot of RVs that were in that type of situation that weren't occupied, fortunately. but we're left on site. I haven't heard from anybody, and we reached out to almost all the members and campgrounds that we can, and nobody's reported any deaths or injuries to their staff or their guests that we've heard about.
That's-
That's great news.
The question that we keep getting, and that I'm sure that the campgrounds are getting, is what about the 2023 snowbird season? We usually see the first wave starting about Halloween time, and then of course right after the holidays, and then in January. How is this going to impact those who have reservations or are seasonal snowbirds in their RVs?
You're right. That's the big issue right now that the parks are dealing with in the Fort Myers area, even the ones that are open. So they're trying to get all their sites up and running for the reservations and for people that are coming down for the snowbird season. That's happening. You got snowbirds that are calling into the park saying, should we come down? Should we not? We don't want to disrupt anything that's going on there. Is it safe? So, that question's having to be answered. You have snowbirds that are changing plans, and that's not necessarily a good thing for some of the parks in Fort Myers who are relying on the snowbirds. They want to keep them. But you do have some snowbirds that are saying, well, no, I don't want to go down there because of the storm. I'm going to, camp farther north, maybe Orlando. Some are even going to the Panhandle. We're hearing from some of our parks in northern Florida that normally don't get any snowbirds from the campers that were originally going to go south saying, hey, we want to come to your area now. And that's great for some of the parks that typically don't get the business. So we're going to have a lot of parks that get more business than they typically would see in the winter. But it's not necessarily good for the Fort Myers parks and the parks in Southwest Florida. Because the reality is, as bad as the storm is and as bad as the damage is in the main impacted areas along the coast, the rest of that area is going to be fine. And I think the perception is all of Southwest Florida is destroyed, and that's not the case. As with any storm, it's usually isolated in smaller areas, and people assume the whole state's shut down or all Southwest Florida is shut down, and fortunately, that's not true.
Well, give us some advice for those. I guess one of the pieces of advice we should say is just be a little patient. Give them a week or two to sort things out. But what advice would you give folks? Are there still reservations? It's hard to get reservations on a good year, with no hurricanes. But how about the rest of this year? What advice would you give those who want a snowbird still in Florida?
Well, you nailed it. First of all, patience. Let this settle for. It's only been a week, almost a week exactly, I guess. So yeah, give us some time. And I understand, the campers are anxious as well. A lot of them want to put down big deposits, and they're panicking too. So we get that. But yes, try to give it a little bit of time. And the campground owners are just trying to figure it out themselves as well. So they're dealing with it, I can assure you. As far as reservations, I mean, it's kind of all wait to be seen, because you're right. The area that we're talking about would typically be filled already. But now these parks are going through so many changes with the reservations as well. They're having people cancel. So where in the past, maybe somebody couldn't get a spot now because of the storm, maybe they can, because it's potentially possible that a campground may have a bunch of cancellations, and they might have some spots open. Right now, they're trying to assist emergency workers, insurance adjusters, contractors who are dying to get a spot close to the damage, and they're needing those locations. So some of the RV parks are allocating those temporarily, but yet they can't guarantee the space long term because they have the winter visitors coming in. So it's a little chaotic, obviously. But this time of year, you would have spaces typically available. It's not until mid-November that all the snowbirds start coming in. October is usually a slow month for that area.
And I think it's what I heard you say is it's still a very isolated area that is so severely affected. What is the rest of the Orlando area, of course, the East Coast down into the Keys? They're pretty much normal, right? There's any problems there?
Yeah, I mean, there's some isolated instances, parks farther inland, along the river access that maybe opened up into the Gulf. Peace River, for instance. We have one member there that they were under 10 feet of water. And last I heard, they were still under 10 feet of water, literally the whole park. That will reside, and hopefully they'll be able to rebuild. But, there are those rare patches where if you're on a waterway, a lake that may have flooded, or even on the coast, on the Atlantic side, the East Coast, they got some storm surges as well, heavy waves, and then once again the rivers and lakes, they flooded. So there were some isolated instances where throughout the state, people had impacts, but nothing permanent by any means. And yes, I would think within a week or two, there won't be any lasting effects. So yes,
Right.
to answer the question, pretty much all the parks are open in the state.
So a little patience, couple weeks yet before anybody knows. And if there's any snowbirds silver lining, maybe some of those late snowbirds that didn't get a reservation might be able to do so now because other people have moved on to different plans. So,
and as far as the campers who are curious, once again, it's perception isn't always reality. And you look at the media, and yes, it's horrible devastation. I don't want to do anything to undermine that in those particular areas. But in northern Fort Myers and, just south of Fort Myers, Naples, they had a lot of wind and rain, but still beautiful parts of the state, and they're definitely open. So the area is not shut down. And yes, you can still find a good site.
Bobby, thank you so much for helping us get a little bit of an understanding of what the situation is there now. Snowbird season 2023 in Florida, it's still very much on.
Thank you. Yes, it is, for sure.
Yeah, just need a little patience before we know exactly what's going on, but we're getting there.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome, Mike.
we look forward to seeing you guys, and we'll be down there all this winter. Start with the
Wonderful.
Tampa RV show coming up in
Right.
January.
Okay. Thank you for everything.
Well, thank you, Bobby Cornwell, for making time for us. I'm delighted to hear that. What is interesting is, as he said, that the campgrounds in the Panhandle for winter have filled up much quicker. They always have a pretty good snowbird season, but many people thinking that Southwest Florida is completely unavailable have moved there, or many snowbirds have moved on to Arizona too this year.
In the Panhandle, take your long johns.
Yeah, it gets cool up there.
Winter can be cool.
But Bobby thinks that it's going to be pretty much, there'll only be a couple of spots, a few of those sites that will be still closed as we get into the heart of the snowbird season. That's not saying that there's a lot of spots there, because even in the best of years, Florida fills up with snowbirds camping in it. So we'll keep monitoring that and keep reporting what we find out
we hear
over the next few weeks, as I know many of you are planning still to escape the cold and get to Florida. All right, RV questions of the week. That's coming up right after this.
When we're asked what's the most important modification we made to our RV, it's an easy answer. Battle-born batteries. Battle-born batteries are quality, safe, reliable lithium batteries that allow us to stay out there off the grid longer. Lithium batteries charge faster, they charge fuller, they're longer lasting, they're maintenance free, and Battle-born batteries are protected by a 10-year guarantee. Now, in our case, they just dropped into the existing AGM batteries that we have, and they'll probably be the same on your rig too. Battle-born battery experts can get those in your rig just like they did with ours. They can also match you up with the right cabling, the inverter, the charger, the solar controller, everything. Jennifer and I swear by our Battle-born batteries. They allow us to boondock off the grid. Check them out. Go to rvlifestyle.com/lithium. rvlifestyle.com/lithium.
Welcome back, and now it's time for the RV questions of the week.
And we want to remind you, if you have a comment about anything you've heard in the podcast this week, or if you have a question, we love getting your questions. Just send them to us at mikeandjen@rvlifestyle.com.
Okay, first question from Jean and Susan. My wife and I have been Class C RV owners for 2 years, but have never winter camped. What should we know in terms of winterizing? Black and gray tanks, usage, etc. when camping when temperatures could go below freezing. We live in the Midwest and are considering a drive to Western New York at Christmas. Should we use our tanks or should we winterize like normal and then avoid using any water for fear of freezing?
Well, if you're driving to Western New York at Christmas time, you know, the odds are very much that you're going to encounter very freezing weather, well below freezing for multiple hours on end. Now, sometimes there's warm season. It's not supposed to be a warm winter. It's supposed to be a tough winter.
Cold
this year.
winter?
But I would advise you to winterize as normal. Don't use your tanks. Don't run fresh water. Don't hook up to running water through your plumbing system. Run your antifreeze through there. Get the water out of your freshwater tanks. Get it out of your plumbing system. Use antifreeze to flush the toilet. Yes, you can use your
RV antifreeze for everything.
Yeah, only
Don't
marine
confuse
grade
yourself.
or RV
Just
grade.
get
the pink stuff. It's the
Get
pink stuff. Don't use automotive. I shouldn't have to say that, but I do because people always do that. That'll wreck your plumbing
And I'm thinking
system.
if you have both types, use one for the bathroom, one for whatever, you might get a little confused, so just
you
stick
use,
to one thing.
Yep. So just use RV, the pink stuff. Use that to flush your toilet. You can use your toilet as normal. Whatever you deposit in the toilet, you put that much
Equal amounts of antifreeze.
of antifreeze in. And then, you know, you can always find some place to empty the tanks. Most RV dealers will let you do that for a small fee. So will some of the big truck stops as well, you know, like Love's or Pilot's. Got to check yourself on that. But please winterize. You will need to do so because, you know, if it's cold for prolonged periods of time, those pipes can and will freeze and then crack, and you got a mess. We're going to have a really full, comprehensive podcast next week on this very topic with Rod Henson from the National RV Technical Academy, and he's going to talk to us in depth about winterization with some really practical advice. So be sure and check that next week. They'll be in our next edition of the podcast. But Gene and Susan, winterize if you're going at Christmas time. All right, here's one. This comes from Sue, and she says, I am confused. I was told the lithium batteries only provide a trickle charge to keep the house battery going, but the lithium batteries do not actually power the appliances. Please clarify. I don't know where you got that, Sue, but the lithium batteries are the coach batteries, are the house batteries. So that's where you're getting your power from. Now, you do run them through usually an inverter, but the inverter just takes the power out of the lithium and converts it to 110 volts so you can plug in. But it is the batteries themselves are your house batteries, the lithium batteries. That's your coach batteries, your house batteries. There's also the chassis battery, which is what powers, if you have a motorhome, which powers the motorhome. But if it's a towable, the batteries that you have are the house batteries. So there you go. All right, we had a couple of questions, and I wanted to read one more question that we had, and maybe you could start with that one.
All right. And this one, we have been camping for decades. However, as I was getting near retirement, we bought a used Class C motorhome and love it. My wife is still working for a few more years, so she works from home wherever I make the Wi-Fi. That is a bit of a problem at times and is fairly costly. The other issue is campgrounds have gotten so expensive that it makes it hard to go for extended periods of time. Gasoline being near $5 a gallon, and the coach only getting 6 miles per gallon, and campgrounds being off the chart doesn't make a retirement camping lifestyle easy to obtain.
And we are hearing so many of those. That's from Jerry. Here's one from Patty, and Patty says, our biggest problem has been finding an RV park to stay in that is located in the area we want to stay in. There's so many RV owners, many being families. Since the COVID pandemic, it makes it difficult, especially in the Northwest during the summer months. In the Southwest, a lot of the RV parks are eliminating RV spots as they put in park models and mobile homes. Many longtime RVers have been displaced due to this. For example, one park that we stayed in for a couple of years has eliminated all of the RV spots. Many of the people that RV'd there were from Canada and have been going there for 30 plus years. Others in the U.S. have been there as long. Many long-term relationships were built that are no longer. And like I said, we've had many different emails that talk on the same thing. So it's more challenging now than it's been any time in the 11 years that we've been doing the RV lifestyle, I'd say. Yeah.
Definitely.
Still worth it. Still can do it. But you got to think through a little bit more and plan for it and stretch that budget as best you can. All right. Again, we would love to hear your comments, your questions. If you have something you want to share with this larger audience or a question for us, use our personal email. It's mikeandjen@rvlifestyle.com. That's the podcast for this week. We talk winterization on next week's podcast. You won't want to miss that. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Happy trails.